Now, as King County and the city of Seattle moved to respond to that recent forensic audit of the King County Regional Homelessness Authority that found 13 million in missing funds and a $45 million deficit, there are new calls for accountability and transparency. King County is moving kind of on its own track there. The city of Seattle moving to do its own thing, but many critics of KCRHA for years now said this is the pivot point or should be the pivot point for a new direction, not only just accountability for the hundreds of NGOs and housing providers that get money from KCRHA to address the homeless crisis that we have, um, but maybe just to say, okay, we need to put a lot more of the focus on organizations that really are trying to get people clean and sober and hold them accountable. Like, let me see the numbers. Don't just give them a tiny house. Don't just put them up in Plymouth housing in downtown Seattle and let them just die inside rather than outside, but really do something to help. So I pushed Seattle City Councilman Bob Kettle on that very topic yesterday. He was sharply critical of KCRHA after this forensic audit came out late last month, and he is moving to push other members of the city council for accountability. Like, what are we going to do if we're just going to disband KCRHA? What does KCRHA 2.0, look like? He's very concerned about that. Um, but I want to share part of my conversation with him and then some fascinating testimony at a public safety committee meeting last week. That committee's chaired by Councilman Kettle that I want to share with you. I think you'll find that to be pretty compelling. So here's part of my conversation late Wednesday with Seattle City Councilman Bob Kettle.
That forensic review or audit was damning in so many ways, and I did participate in the meeting that was held afterwards with both Executive Saharlai and Mayor Wilson and others to basically the King County the KCRHA governing board, of which I'm an alternate. But I've been engaged, by the way, for a while. And one of the things I pushed for was for governance reform, which we did at the end of 2024, which was my first year, and because that was so needed. And if we didn't make those governance changes, the city council would have ended the KCRHA at that point. The city is in fiscal distress, the county is in fiscal distress, and so is the state. And that triple combination is not good for us. And so we need to be working together as different entities. And this is why we need the regional approach. But then we also have to have the oversight piece done. Like, we work the governance structure, but then we have to ensure that the operations and the financial pieces are also being done right. And this is where, as a council, we need to have HSD, the Human Services Department, again, the county version of it. And then on the executive to report saying, hey, well, there's issues, because then we can address them. We've definitely been notified now with this audit. And then again, I sat in on the Clark Nuber presentation as a alternate board member of the KCRHA. And so we need to make this right. But at the end of the day, if you get rid of it, you're going to have to replace it. So this contingency planning process needs to ensure that we have a 2.0 or we fix it. And because we can't do this alone. There's some that say we should just do everything by ourselves. That is a mistake, because it's not a Seattle problem on the Seattle homelessness problem on the streets of Seattle. It is a regional homelessness problem on our streets. And if we're not engaging, this is like doing the same thing in terms of ignoring those factors like mental, the public health piece. As I've often said many times, we cannot succeed in public safety if we don't also succeed in public health. And when I say public health, the mental health, behavioral health, all these, and then also the addiction pieces, they all play into this. And so if we're going to be successful, we have to factor that in.
Now, on the King County side, I want to remind you that council members Rod Dombowski and Reagan Dunn introduced legislation to end King County's participation in the interlocal agreement that they had with KCRHA. The issue with that is the disbanding, as I mentioned, of a couple of hundred of service contracts that they have with these providers, whether it's housing or, the wraparound services, mental health providers, that sort of a thing. They've got these contracts, and you can't just sever those contracts overnight and leave people hanging. So they're moving in their own way to eventually disband KCRHA, but it's going to happen over some time. So while King County goes that direction, the city of Seattle is moving to do what it decides ultimately that it's going to do.